I'm doing some prep for it. So if you are in that, keep your eyes peeled. If you've already signed up, then I'm excited to have you join me. If you haven't yet and you need to join, there is a link in my bio. But what I wanted to say was just a quick thing about yesterday, the debate that was in Parliament. So you might have seen there was a 3-hour debate in Parliament led by David Davis around SEN provision in England and in the UK, and the motion was placed to suggest a reform of specifically SEND funding, and the motion was passed. So I don't know what that means, but I think what it means, I mean, I know what it means. It means that it was passed, but I don't know what the next stage is. But what it does mean is that there will be at some point a move, hopefully, touch wood, to address SEN provision in our country. We know that our SEN system is chronically underfunded, in spite of the fact that there were MPs in that debate saying that they've invested more than people give them credit for. We know that it's just not even touching the sides. But what I wanted to talk about today is that what do we do while we're waiting, right? Because we know that reform takes time. And we know that sometimes, even when reform is agreed, it doesn't happen. And a review is not necessarily a reform. So we know we've had the Green SEN paper, the SEN review last year, which, resulted in a review document being circulated, and in essence, some of those reforms in that review document were scrapped because of the feedback from predominantly parents and carers, but also educators saying, you've got this wrong. So we know that with all the will in the world, even if we have cross-party support for better funding and resourcing within our SEN provision in England and the UK more broadly, then it's going to be a long time coming. And certainly if you've got a school-age child now, I don't expect that any of us will see any real impact of any reform for any of our children that are in school right now. We know that reforms take time to put in place, to embed, and to make a difference. So we have to work with what we've got. And there's been a lot of talk about, hi Sam, there's been a lot of talk about the increase in requests for EHCPs. And there's been some very ignorant talk about the fact that it's parents thinking that an EHCP is a golden ticket. Let's not be under any illusion. There's nothing golden about an EHCP. There's nothing privileged about having a document that you have to work like a demon to get to outline even the very basic level of need required by your child with additional needs, and then to fight for provision, and then to have that provision made, even getting an EHCP application in the first place. We know that at schools, local authorities are advising school leaders and SENCOs to delay applications for EHCPs. We know that there's a push towards raising the threshold for EHCP assessments being granted. It's difficult. There's nothing fucking golden about it. Pardon my fucking French. And that's what we've got right now. So what I am trying to do, and what a lot of other advocates are trying to do, is to equip parents as well as we can right now to work with what we've got. And right now, what we've got is an EHCP system that is a mechanism for unlocking support for our children and young people. It is far from perfect. It is adversarial as a process. It's difficult, it's stressful, it's trauma-inducing, and it's what we've got right now. So you have other options. If you have a child who needs additional support in school, you do have options. You can liaise with the school, and many schools will do as much as they can and above and beyond what really is required of them to meet the needs of our children who have additional needs. And it's also not enough. So I just wanted to say, there's a couple of things I want to say, but one of the things I do want to say is that we're going to hear increasingly this narrative in the coming weeks and months that parents shouldn't be, I've got my jumper on back to front, parents shouldn't be requesting EHCPs for children. They should be able to unlock support in mainstream settings as they are without an EHCP. Fact is, we know that's not true. We know that we should be able to get that, and we know we can't. So our route is EHCPs. So yeah, Sharon, I hear you. Sharon's saying, even when you get support via tribunal, it's not funded. It's entirely the LAEPs come in and try to remove it. I hear you. I hear you. I am not here saying get an EHCP and everything will be better. Not for a second am I saying that, right? I am here saying we work with what we've got. And what we've got now is a far from perfect EHCP system, but at least there is some, like sometimes as a parent, I just feel like you've got to do something to feel like you have some sense of control. Okay. So yeah, Claire's saying my son's secretary school has told me to do it myself. I think for me, one of the big moves that I've seen, the big shifts that I've seen over the past 12 months, 18 months, is parents not waiting for schools and colleges to make applications for EHC needs assessments because they're being told, I hear it all the time, speaking to parents now who are being told, let's wait till Easter. And it's all about, not all about, but a lot of it is about if a school makes an application for an EHC needs assessment, the requirement is on the school to fund the EP advice. So the school have to find the money to bring in an educational psychologist, if they can even find one, to do an assessment or to give advice. So it is a drain on school resources, okay? So whereas if you make a parental application, the local authority need to fund the educational psychologist. That's a big main difference, okay? But I am seeing more and more parents making those their own EHC needs assessment requests. And increasingly I'm being asked about by parents, how do I do that? So with all of that in mind, over the past 4 months, I've been working on some stuff and I have written some bits and pieces, some tools, some resources, some training to help parents with the EHCP process. Everything from, not always, Claire, but yes, I hear you. She's saying if you make your own application, it's deemed as faking inducing illness. I hear you. It's what we've got to work with, right? But yeah, I know. It's far from perfect. And given that it's a far from perfect system, I am doing what I can to make it less overwhelming and unmanageable and freaking trauma-inducing than it is. So my big focus for the first half of this year is upskilling parents and carers in understanding the EHCP process, right? How and when do you make an application? How and when do you evidence need? What do you need to know? What are the pitfalls? What are the things that are the kind of like quick workarounds? What is worth giving effort to? What is not worth giving effort to? What do you need to complain about? What do you need to let go? How do you take care of yourself during this process? That's freaking massive, right? And it's all well and good me teaching you how to make an EHC needs application and how to lodge a complaint or lodge an appeal. But if you don't know like the very basics of understanding the impact that trauma and stress has on your physical, mental, and emotional well-being, I'm setting you up for failure. So this is my big focus for the first half of the year, is really upskilling and empowering parents and really helping them to get their heads around the process and what they need to do to take care of themselves and their family whilst they're advocating for their kids in this way. So let me tell you how it's going to work. Will the talk cover if you have an EHCP already but want to change to EOTS? Yes. So what I've done is 2 things. If you're not already aware of my Marble Run, if you are not yet a member of the Marble Run, then go and have a look on my website and click on For Families, click on the Marble Run. The Marble Run is a monthly subscription for parents and carers in neurodivergent households. Originally, it was built to support parents and carers of children and young people who have barriers to attendance. So if that is you, that's where you need to be. But that bank of resources, which includes over 40 hours of webinars, trainings, plus resources and templates. We also have a monthly Q&A, a monthly guest, bi-weekly body doubling sessions to help you get through your admin. We have a private Facebook group for the Marble Run. So if you're not already in there, go and get in there, because that is where a lot of my stuff goes, my stuff that already exists and the stuff that I'm rolling out in the next few weeks and months. The next thing that I'm doing is that I am I'm definitely saying yes, EHCP all the way. I'm in tribunal next month for BFNI. I will say legal aid solicitor is amazing. That's so good to hear. And there are barristers who represent parents pro bono. There are. And you still need to know what's going on. So even if you're using a solicitor, an advocate, anyone else, my resources, my training, the way that I work is about giving parents and carers the information they need to be informed during the process. Okay. So the last thing I want for you and for your child or young person is for you to go into the EHCP process and to not understand what's happening and what's working and what isn't working and what to look out for. And the reason for that is because the biggest part of this process for me is we advocate for our children so that we can show them what self-advocacy looks like. This is about getting support in place for them now. Of course it is. This is about a paperwork exercise to unlock support, to let parents and carers have the information they need through an EHCP to get support for their children and young people in school and college. That's first and foremost the kind of like the mechanism. But bigger than that, what we're talking about is bringing parents to a place where they understand what that means for their household, what that means in terms of the well-being for the people in their home, and how they can evidence and model to their children it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to demand what is legally yours. It's okay to advocate loudly and fiercely for yourself. That is what will make the difference, regardless of what governments do, regardless of whether funding reform comes or not, regardless of whether we manage to reduce the waiting times on SEND tribunals, regardless on whether we see an uplift in better performance for within the school system for supporting our SEND kids. We have no control over that. Like the powers that be, the higher ups, the Whitehallians, they will take care of that or not. They will sit in big dusty rooms. They will debate it for 3 hours. They will agree that something needs to be done. It may or may not happen in our lifetime. We can't control that. We are engaging with a system where we are at a significant disadvantage and we have no input into that system beyond being able to ask our MPs to advocate on our support, on our behalf. What we do have control over is the conversations we have with the people around us who care about support, love, and should be helping our children and young people. We do have control over the way that we speak to our young people about their disabilities. We do have control over the way that we empower our children and young people to break the cycle, the generational cycle of particularly neurodivergent learners being told to take what they get and just shut up and be grateful. We have control over that. So that's what I'm really focused on is I'm going to show you the nuts and bolts of the EHCP system. I'm going to show you how to make an application for an EHC needs assessment. I'm going to show you how to evidence need. I'm going to show you how to check your reports. I'm going to show you how to feedback on a draft. I'm going to show you how and when you decide if you need to appeal. I'm going to show you how to lodge an appeal with EHC Needs Tribunal, SEND Tribunal. I'm going to show you how to prepare for tribunal. I'm going to show you what to say in your hearing. I'm going to show you how to read your orders. I'm going to show you how to make sure that after an order is completed, you have the best chance of getting all of that in place. I'm going to show you all of that, okay? But more than that, we're going to hold space for each other where we work out, what does this mean for our families? How do we take care of our kids during this process? How do we make sure we don't lose ourselves? How do we prioritize our well-being and their well-being? How do we make sure that all of this work that we're doing does more than just get them the education they deserve? How do we underpin that with strong advocacy for our neurodivergent children and young people so that they come out the other end empowered as hell, ready to rip up trees like the badasses that we know they are? That is the bit I'm really passionate about. So the Marble Run will support you with all of that in practical terms. Yes, we do quite a lot in the Marble Run on EBSA and low attendance. We have a whole section in the Marble Run on barriers to attendance. There's currently 40 hours of training in the Marble Run already. The work we're going to do together next week in the EHCP Mastery Roadtrip will build on that. And specifically, I'm going to look at 3 things with you next week. It's a free online virtual road trip. On Tuesday night, we're going to get together and I'm going to go through cutting through some of the mystery, the guff, the difficulty with dealing with local authorities. cutting through the jargon, understanding exactly where you are right now, wherever you are in the process, whether you haven't even applied for an EHC needs assessment yet, or whether you've already got an EHCP and you're in review or you're in tribunal or anything in between, whether your kid is in school or out of school. We're going to look, where are you on this EHCP roadmap now? What does that look like? What are your key dates? Who are your key contacts? What are the key messages? What are the key priorities? I'm going to do a little bit of work on that. I can't do it all, but we're going to start there, right? That's Tuesday. Wednesday, we're going to look at, so I know what my priorities are. I know what I'm doing. Where's my evidence? We know that this is an evidence-heavy process. We know that we can go into a school and we can say, my kid is like this, 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 and this, and we will be met with blank stares and Senkos and whoever else, hashtag not all Senkos, saying, oh, they're fine in school. We know that happens. We hear it day in, day out. So given that, where are the gaps in our evidence? What do we need to look at now to fill those gaps? How do we have a paper trail to evidence that what we're saying about our own children, who we know better than anyone else on earth, is true? How do we hold each other in a place where we say, you're not making this up, you're not going bonkers, you are right here, stand your ground, let's make sure we've got the evidence. So day 2 is evidence. And if you hear me talk about evidence, you'll hear me banging about this all the time. Day 1 is how to speak to your LA. Day 2 is evidence. Day 3 is, this is a marathon, not a sprint. How are we going to survive this? And not only how are we going to survive this, how are we going to thrive during this? We're going to look at polyvagal theory, and particularly stress responses in the human brain, mind, body, and soul, and particularly in neurodivergent homes. How does that show up? And what do you need to know before the wheels come off so that you can at least see them coming off, stop the car, get off, throw the wheel in the boot, and decide to put it back on later? Okay. Yes, you can still come along if you have everything your children needs, as things can change. 100%. Just come. Please just come. You do not know when you're going to need this stuff. We're going to do 3 days together next week in a pop-up group, in a pop-up Facebook group. And then on the Sunday, next Sunday night, we'll close the week with a masterclass. And in that masterclass, I will share with you my tried and tested tips for navigating the whole EHCP process. Okay, so that by the end of next week, you will have a really good, like, I know where I am, I know what I need to do, I know what my potential risk point factors are, and I've got a bit of a plan. Okay, on the back of that, if you want to, you will have the opportunity to opt into a way to work with me on a paid basis in February. Full disclosure, this is a marketing exercise. I give a lot freely and as generously as I can. I also, this is my livelihood. So on the back of that, if you've spent a week with me and you're like, this bitch knows what she's talking about, I want to do some more of this, then there'll be opportunity to do that in February. We're going to do an intensive, an EHCP intensive. And if you joined me last week for my artificial intelligence for complaints workshop and you were excited by what I showed you there, you are going to want to be in my intensive, because that's what we're going to really bed into. And I'm going to give you artificial intelligence tools for every single step of the EHCP process. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. So next week, we are focusing on your LA, how to make sure that you are cutting through the guff, how to deal with them, how to know exactly when and where and how and who to speak to, and when, understanding your timescales, evidencing your need, making sure your paperwork is in order, thinking about where the gaps are in your evidence, and then taking care of yourself and your family. And this isn't just me sitting about going, let's talk about self-care. Let's do some breathing exercises. Let's have a spa day. Horse shit. In real terms, when you live in a messy, chaotic household, how do you stop yourself from losing your marbles? That's what we're going to talk about on Thursday. And then we're going to wrap up with our EHCP masterclass. So I'd really love it if you would come and join me. I would love it if you would share the shit out of this. Right now, all I'm really focused on is let's get as many parents and carers as we can into that Facebook group that will open on Monday night. If you're signed up already for the road trip, you will get an email saying the Facebook group is open, come and join us. You will also get access to replays in that Facebook group. Quick question. I'm not doing questions, but let me see if I can. I can't do that. Ask that in the Facebook group if that's okay. I'm not going to do questions right here. But if you are not already in my Facebook group, go to my link tree, click join our Facebook community, ask that question in the Facebook group. I'll answer it there. Okay. So yeah, really all I'm concerned with right now is that we get as many parents as we can onto next week's session. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, a session each night, and then Sunday night, top tips and a Q&A. Okay. All of that is free. You just need to go and sign up. You're paying for it with your email address. Full disclosure. If you don't like what I send you afterwards, tell me to F off and unsubscribe. That's totally fine. But I promise you that if you give me 3 days next week, you will move the dial on where you are now. I promise. Like, I don't know how else to hammer this harder. I promise. And I'm a woman who keeps her word. So I'm going to go. Yes, this is shareable. I will see you next week in the road trip. Let me see if I can get the link up in the comments on Facebook. It might not let me. Will it let me? Yes, it will. Here we go. So that is the link. It's showing on Facebook. I can't put it on Insta, but it's in my bio. Also, if you go onto my grid on either Facebook or on Instagram and you see a post about the road trip and you comment road trip, you will be able to I'll send you the details in a private message. If you don't have Facebook, how quickly will it be in the marble run to follow along in realish time? The challenge replays usually when we do things on in a pop-up way, they turn up in the marble run within 48 hours. But this is a live challenge, so you need to be live. There's also prizes. Points mean prizes. I mean, come and get in Facebook. Come and get in amongst it in Facebook. Yeah. So what else was I going to say? There will be prizes. I'm giving away a shed load of stuff. I've got book bundles. I've got a Kindle. I've got Audible subscriptions. I've got one-to-ones with me. I've got goodie bags. So yeah, if the promise of new information, a community of like-minded parents, and free training doesn't do it for you, then maybe the little carrot of some prizes might do it. I'm trying to hit all the types. If you're a dopamine chaser, I'm hoping this is doing it for you. Like, oh, if you're a FOMOer, please God, come and join us. So come and get in amongst it. I will see you in the road trip. To give you a heads up, currently over 450 people have signed up for this challenge already. It's going to be a belting week. I am so excited. The last time we did a challenge in a group like this, I'm calling it a challenge because I don't know what else to call it. It's the EHCP Roadtrip, Mastery Roadtrip, whatever. But anyway, it's a challenge. The last time we did this, the energy in the Facebook group where we did this was freaking incredible. The community was all amazing. No, I have no capacity for one-to-one. That's why I'm doing this. But at the end of the road trip, you'll have information on how you can work with me in February, but it isn't one-to-one. I have no one-to-one capacity. I'm sorry. That's why I'm doing it this way. So yeah, so if you come and get in amongst it, I would love to have you. I'm going to stop now. I'm really bad at goodbyes. People who watch me often live will be like, oh yeah, this is a bit where she just hums and haws for a bit. This is a bit when you can leave. If the numbers go down to 0, I will stop speaking. But in the meantime, I'm going to go. I've got some more work to do on the cheat sheets that I'm writing for you next week for the road trip. There'll be a worksheet every single day. Come and find us. We would love to have you. And I will see you over there.